Auburn is now putting in their game plan for its Week 2 opponent, Arkansas State, and I want to talk to Wes Sinor on the Plains now after Gus Malzahn's press conference. After the weekend, he seemed non-committal about the quarterback situation and who was going to start this week, but then he says Sean White's in and JF3 will be his backup. Your thoughts on that and who we expect to see this weekend?
Well, obviously, you know, they played 3 quarterbacks in this first game. They actually had 5 different players take snaps. It didn't work very well. I think it confused a lot of people, and you know, in terms of just, he named Sean White the starter, and yes, he did take the field first, but Jeremy Johnson was the one that was taking most of those snaps in the first half. You know, and then John Franklin III came in a little bit, but they didn't really utilize what he could do. Today, he came out flat out and said Sean White is our guy, John Franklin III is our second string guy, and Jeremy Johnson is number 3. Personally, I think that's probably the right move. I think Sean looked better than Jeremy and John did, even though John didn't really get to display what he can do best, which is run the ball. But I think that just in terms of just trying to get into a rhythm for the offense with all these substitutions that they were making, it just kind of it was confusing. It kind of killed some momentum at different points in the game. And I think that if they are able to just stick with Sean, and then if they want to bring John Franklin III in to kind of run some of that zone read, I think that could probably work pretty well. But I just think it's important now that he's come out and said that Sean White is our guy, and that's kind of where they're moving forward from this point.
Yeah, I certainly think momentum and confidence will be key in this one. Now, some other changes possibly on offense in terms of the running back position, Cameron Petway and even Rudy Ford being mentioned as perhaps.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised that Cameron Petway didn't get a carry against Clemson. You know, he's the number 2 running back. He provides a lot of force up the middle. He's a big 240-pound running back. He's pretty different from what Kerryon Johnson can do. I know that there were a lot of questions about Kerryon and whether he could handle a big, you know, workload in this level. And you know, he carried 23 times for, I believe, 94 yards on Saturday. But at halftime, Auburn had 1 rushing yard and Kerryon had 2 carries. And so in the second half, you really started to see Auburn's ground game kind of take off, and Kerryon did pretty well. But like I said, surprised that Cameron Petway didn't get any carries. I think that, you know, he was healthy. We asked about him today. Gus Malzahn said that he'll have a bigger role moving forward. With Rudy Ford, you know, he used to be a running back in high school at New Hope, and he was pretty good, but they ended up moving him to defensive back pretty quickly when he arrived on campus, because at that time there was just so much depth at running back. I don't know if he's actually going to, you know, play a whole lot on offense, but Malzahn just said he's just going to kind of see how that goes, because he's an explosive guy. He's a good return guy, and he's got a lot of speed. So I think that, you know, you might see Rudy do some sweeps and that kind of thing throughout the season, but Petway, I believe, will be a pretty big factor moving forward.